Okay, assistant, I need that cleaning rod right now.
Okay. Doctor, this isn't looking good.
Just relax. Everything's gonna be fine.
Doctor, isn't that bucking supposed to go over there on that side?
Please just hand me the armorer's wrench.
Oh, God. Doctor, we're losing him. No. Can't we just put a Kythera in it or something?
Are you insane? This is a gas gun.
Oh, shit.
You can't just do that.
Wait, we need to do
We're
something.
in the middle of the surgery right now.
I'm gonna get some suction on him.
Suction, please.
This isn't working. What else can we do?
Just stay calm.
Oh, God.
Hand me the silicone oil.
Doctor, I don't want to be a hero.
It's fine. Everything's gonna be just fine.
No. This is madness. Okay. All we're gonna do is we're gonna HPM, and then everything's gonna be just fine.
Listen, we can't do that. This is a routine modification. All we're doing is swapping a nozzle, a buffer, and a hop arm.
What else can we do?
Relax. Green gas. We are done. Hey guys, good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to our channel, Foghorn 5. Thanks for joining us today. Do you own a Tokyo Marui MWS? And have you ever wanted to upgrade it? Today we're going to be going over Tokyo Marui MWS performance and mechanical upgrades and a recommendations guide. We're basically doing this video based off of a commenter that mentioned and asked about some recommendations on the MWS, so thanks for that. It was something we kind of already had planned, so we're gonna go ahead and do it, jump right into it. One thing we're not gonna do, we're not gonna mention MWS copies like the Guns Modify or the Angry Gun copies, the CGS, the Double Eagle. We're not gonna be going over that. We're going strictly over OEM TM guns. We also wanna mention some of the commenters that commented on our videos, giving us some compliments on the quality of our videos. We really appreciate that, and we're striving to do more with this channel as we grow. Thank you. As you can see, we are standing in front of this. If you know what it is, kind of hinting at some stuff, some upcoming projects maybe. So stay tuned for that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the video. First thing I'm gonna mention is if you're a fan of Lone Survivor, you might recognize this rifle. This is actually a clone of Danny Dietz's rifle. I'm kind of going more with what his actual gun had on it, as opposed to the one in the movie, except for I'm taking the liberty of gonna get the M203 grip at some point, and then correct J-point optic that'll go on this wing mount, which was not also, the wing mount wasn't featured in the movie as well. But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick shout out on this gun. Great movie, and a honorable human who held a rifle just like this. So naturally, working on any gun, you're just gonna need some tools. I have some that are kind of dependent on my situation. First one we got here, Magpul armorer's wrench. You'll definitely want one of those. Any armorer's wrench will do. So I always have that armorer's wrench taped to my cleaning kit. This is not a tool, but we definitely wanna keep this with us. It's a barrel cleaning kit. I just have kind of odds and ends here. Like I don't know exactly what I'm gonna need to take everything apart until I actually do it. Just have some little small pliers, needle nose pliers. A pin punch is always good to have. A little hook tool is great. You'll want some small Phillips screwdrivers, a mallet, flathead, and Phillips, normal sized ones. Metric Allen keys, don't get standard because most of these guns are metric. I'm not gonna go too in depth on tools because you might need a certain set of tools for whatever your gun needs. I don't know. The first thing we'll get into is the performance side of upgrades. And we're separating this into two different sections. So I'm gonna go over recommendations, what I would personally recommend based on what I have on my gun, and then also based on hearsay or based on what I've read. And when I'm talking about performance, I'm talking about getting your BB out. So the first upgrade that we'll go over is the hop arm. We're gonna be talking hop assembly stuff. So as I talk, we'll take apart the gun. And a good idea when you're taking apart stuff is put it in a bin. Shout out to our dad for this. He's always like, can I get some extra ones of these at In-N-Out? And the cool thing about M203s that are barrel mounted, if you have a SOCOM profile barrel, you could slide it right off the barrel. There we go. Just take the top of the handguard off because we're trying to get down to the inner barrel. It should come out nice and easy. I see a lot of people, when they're working on airsoft guns, they're fucking galoots.
You gotta say it then.
Shout out London, bro. That's our buddy. He is quite the galoot. Like, how do I get my orange tip off type beat? Literally just wrenching on that thing and you forget that there's a grub screw there, bro. Come on. So now we've gotten our barrel separated from our upper. I'm leaving all the components on the barrel here so I don't mix it up and I don't forget. It's always a good idea to do that. And the first thing I'll talk about is our hop up arm. So yeah, you just pull the barrel and hop up chamber out of the outer barrel. So this is the Tokyo Marui MWS OEM hop up chamber arm, and then I have a nub in there as well. I'll go ahead and disassemble this. It's really easy. All you gotta do is pry it slightly apart, and then there's a little O-ring that keeps everything together. So you just pry it apart, just grab that. So here's our arm. This is the stock OEM arm. This is the stock OEM chamber. And then this is a stock OEM bucking. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about when I talk about upgrades is the arm. That's probably the most important part when it comes to upgrades on the MWS. The arm will be basically, if you could imagine the arm having a nub pre-attached, just already pre-machined like that. That's basically what the arm would be. I recommend the Laylax, the Dytac, the CNC Tac, Waldo Dynamics. This is one that I cannot recommend, unfortunately. They look like they're a great product, but they have some fitment issues. I'll put up some photos, send them an email showing them all the issues, and hopefully their designer will fix that. Because they do look like promising products, and I don't want to shit on them. But it just wasn't for me because there's issues. Our last recommendation is the WiiTech, W-I-I Tech. Our next little upgrade is the nub plus a stock arm. So just like how I have here. And really I could only recommend two. Jaeger Precision nubs are what everybody seems to recommend if you're going with a nub and a stock arm. And then the 6G MWS Super Nub, which is this one right here. It's just a little brass machine nub. It'll help you be able to hop 40s and above. Personally, I think if you have a nub and an arm combo, like how I have here, I feel like there's more room for error. With an arm that is long enough to be a nub itself, there's less room for error, so you get more accuracy. That's at least my kind of philosophy. I know there's like an argument on that. I mean, that's kind of an argument left for you in the comments to argue about. So the next set of upgrades we're gonna go over is the buckings. Right now I have a stock one in my gun. The stock ones are just fine. Brands I'll go over. We got the Unicorn. A lot of people recommend the 70-degree bucking. The 4 UAD, I don't remember what degree people are recommending, but Waldo Dynamics, although I can't recommend their hop arm, maybe their buckings are good. I've heard they're pretty good. Flamingo buckings and Mr. Hop is another one that I've heard. There's a bunch of different other recommendations that you could probably go with. That's just what I have on my list. The next set of upgrades is your hop chamber. And I'll go ahead and get into there real quick. So this is the chamber. I have the OEM. OEM is just fine. You don't have to upgrade this. There's no point. Usually companies will sell the chamber and the adjuster together. I don't think you could buy one of the chamber itself and the adjuster itself, as far as I know. But you can mix and match, as far as I know, with different brands, which is what I have in here. So this gun has a Dytac hop-up adjuster in it. And I'll go ahead and take that out real quick. So basically these fit together like so. This little wheel will move this little arm and link up with this arm and move that arm up and down. In my particular gun, I have an OEM chamber and a Dytac adjuster. The Dytac adjuster is just a little bit more positive with its clicks. I'll go into my recommendations on the hop chambers and adjusters. Dytac is a good brand. CNC Tac is also a pretty good brand as as far as I know. A brand called PH Plus. They make a CNC hop-up chamber that you could adjust via an Allen key. As opposed to having to get your finger down and adjust this in the upper receiver, you can simply just adjust it with an Allen key. And that looks really promising and interesting. And also, another thing is it's not clicky. It doesn't have clicky points of adjustment. You have more in-between settings that you can get to, which sounds really promising. I do want to try one of these days. I find myself wanting like in-between clicks. One of these brands I mentioned also has a wheel that has more clicks. I don't remember which one it was because I don't have the photos with me. Something to be desired sometimes, especially with a DMR setup. Getting more clicks out of the gun can really help to kind of dial in your hop. So our last thing when it comes to airsoft performance is the inner barrel. So what I personally have in this gun is a GNP. It's a 6.03 and it's 14.5 in length. So the Unicorn 6.03 barrels are supposed to be really good. A lot of people talk about them. And the GMP ones I found are really good as well. I think Lilacs makes some too for the MWS or GBBs in general. So one thing is that GBBs in general, most of them have this same exact profile on the cut. AEGs, a lot of people stabilize their barrels on the outer barrel. People will tape the barrel or do some sort of O-ring or something like that. A lot of GBB barrels will have an O-ring on them to stabilize. But honestly, I don't know if that's enough. Barrel stabilization is extremely important. Every time you shoot with a gas gun, things are vibrating. And if there's any bit of play between the inner barrel and the outer barrel, that little bit of movement, result in feet downrange, Your inner barrel going inside of an outer barrel is important. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try. It's something I've actually been curious about myself. So we're gonna wanna use Elmer's tape over electrical or any other tape because it doesn't gum up and get all bunched up. You can get it really flat to its surface. This is literally like the cheapest upgrade you could ever do. And one of the cheapest upgrades you could do for an MWS is swap out the nub. So what I did, 2 wraps. From wherever your wrap started, you just wrap it around, hit that point again, hit that point again, twice. That barrel should be pretty damn stable now. Next thing we're gonna talk about is the nozzle, and we're gonna go into a little bit on the bulk carrier as well. Eventually your OEM MWS nozzle might crap out on you, so it's a good idea to keep some spares on you. A few of these things that I'm gonna be mentioning later, you're gonna wanna keep some spares, just in case. My first recommendation for a nozzle is the Guns Modify 3.5 or version 3.5. They're great, sturdy, they're just as good as OEM. The other nozzle I'll recommend is the Unicorn nozzle for the MWS, and that's about it for nozzles. Nozzle guide in case yours gets worn out. Guns Modify and Unicorn are also good brands. And then since we're on the subject of nozzles and gas flowing, the stock NPAS or restrictor valve that goes inside the nozzle, the OEM one or the Guns Modify one is fine, but there's some good upgrades out there. The Federal Concepts NPAS looks pretty good, looks pretty promising. A lot of people say it's really good. And the Jaeger Precision. So the NPAS just restricts the amount of gas going through the nozzle. The Federal NPAS is adjustable. You could dial up or down your FPS in joules based on your field's limits. That's really handy to have. The next thing I'll go over is the nozzle return spring. These you're definitely going to want to keep some spares just in case, because the OEM ones will eventually bunch up in the nozzle and then you won't be able to return, or your nozzle won't be able to return. Brand recommendations: Dynamic Precision, Bavtac, Guns Modify, Unicorn. Waldo Dynamics is also another good recommendation as far as I know. They look cool, they're purple. It's good to have a couple spares just in case. I always keep some in my little trusty GBB maintenance bag. That about wraps it up for performance upgrades. The next thing we'll go into is mechanical upgrades. When we're talking about mechanical, we're just talking about moving parts. We're not talking about the gas system or anything like that. Most of our mechanical parts are in our lower. The first thing I'll go over is the buffer. In order to run the gun on green gas, it's a good idea to get an aluminum buffer. The OEM ones are plastic and they could break from running it on green gas. The MWS is designed for duster, which is a lower PSI gas, and that's all due to Japan's regulations and whatnot. Running it on green gas, you're definitely going to want that aluminum buffer. The GNP V2 aluminum buffer, it has adjustable weights in here. We have 3 different weights. You could throw anything in here that you really like to weigh it down. And what these weights do is they shake around a little bit. When the bolt goes back, it won't bounce. Think of a dead blow mallet hitting the ground, the hard ground with it. It's not going to bounce. It's the same exact phenomenon. That's why we have the shaking weights in there. Bolt bounce can cause issues with double feeds, and then also can cause issues with not being able to lock back on empty. So as for buffers, we have the GMP V2 aluminum buffer. That's what I have in my gun. BJ Tac, if you could find them. I don't think they're even a company anymore. Iron Airsoft, those look pretty cool. The PTS MEC, the Psycho MWS buffers. Those look really cool because they're highly adjustable. I want to try one of those one of these days. The Angry Gun ones, I don't know about those. Angry Gun is kind of hit and miss with stuff for the MWS due to fitment issues. They're not completely one-to-one for whatever reason. And then our next little mechanical upgrade is our buffer tube. The stock TM buffer tube will have an end cap. There's a screw that basically keeps this rear plate in place, and that screw could get undone. Unless you Loctite it, these start to get loose, and then it'll come off, and then you'll have a catastrophic malfunction. As for buffer tubes, we want a one-piece buffer tube, so we don't have that end cap coming undone. In my gun here, I believe I have a Guns Modify buffer tube. It's a one-piece, so I'll recommend Guns Modify and Angry Gun. Those are usually pretty cool because I have both, and I have a Guns Modify on one gun and an Angry Gun on another gun. They work fine. The only thing is do not make the mistake that I did. I bought a mil-spec one, and the threads are not MWS compatible. They're larger threads. If you get that one, then you'll have to have your lower receiver rethreaded. Basically, most of the parts on the MWS are not one-to-one to real spec because of Japan's laws. They don't want people modifying their guns, turning them into real firearms. So some things are a little underscaled for certain reasons, and yeah, for good reason. The next part I'll go over is the bolt carrier end cap. In my gun, all my guns have the GMP roller bolt. Makes everything run a little bit smoother. GMP and basically any brand with a roller. And also there's also ones that are heavier, there's ones that are lighter. It's really what you want to do. I don't know. I'm not gonna go too in depth on that recommendation. Here's the one that came with the Guns Modify. The Guns Modify ones are cool too. They also have a roller on them. TM ones don't have a roller, they're just flat all the way through. So the reason I have a Guns Modify end cap is because I have a Guns Modify steel bolt carrier. This is the steel lightweight bolt carrier. The bolt carrier is riding against everything in here in the lower. Probably is a good idea to upgrade and match steel to steel. Steel wears against zinc or aluminum more quickly, or it'll wear the zinc or aluminum more quickly. So it's a good idea to probably match your parts if you do. I'm not so worried about it. I have 3 MWS rifles and I'm kind of circulating them. So I'll just keep an eye on it. If it does start to wear, then I'll swap out parts for steel. One thing about the MWS is it's built in such a manner that everything is low wear, low stress on the entire system, so we're not too worried about certain things like that. Like the bolt riding against this will be good. You know, they hardly really wear like a lot. So as for the bolt carrier itself, I do recommend the Guns Modifies if you want to change out your OEM, or if you don't have an OEM, or if you need a spare. Guns Modify ones are cool, and they come in all different flavors. Aluminum, I think they do make a zinc one, steel. If you're not going with OEM, Guns Modify is good. Other brands, I'm not really going to get into that. I don't know, to be honest. Next thing we'll go into is the ZET Plate. For any green gas ready MWS, you're definitely going to want a lightweight ZET Plate. This particular one in here is a Guns Modify. You notice there's a trend. Another brand I'll recommend is HAL, which I have one. I have a bunch of these because I'm setting them aside for other builds. The other brand that I'll recommend is Babtac. Those are lightweight and they're titanium. Titanium is super fucking strong. It's never gonna break on you. I don't see why it would anyway, because it's a really low stress component. The reason we wanna upgrade to a lighter weight one, for whatever reason, the OEM ones are too heavy and it doesn't allow the bolt carrier enough time to go up to lock back on empty. So a lightweight one is recommended. The ZET Plate, the buffer tube, the buffer, are all really good upgrades to get your MWS running on green gas properly. And one thing is when you screw in your buffer tube, you'll have to experiment with how many turns you'll go in, and you'll need a castle nut wrench to do that as well. So the last thing that we'll go into for mechanical upgrades is the trigger box. If you want to upgrade the trigger box, There's springs that you could do. There's whole box assemblies that you could buy. I'm not super well versed in this. This was a gun that my friend, a lower that my friend sold to me. I don't know what's in here because it's not the OEM. This is what an OEM looks like. These little guys right here are silver, so I don't know what's exactly in here. But whatever it is, it works great. Even the bolt catch is different. It probably came from a Double Eagle because he swapped out his trigger box in his Double Eagle for an OEM. So I think mystery solved there. Ones that I can recommend are Guns Modify. They make the box itself. They make the entire assembly. They make them in steel, aluminum, as far as I know. GMP, they make adjustable trigger boxes. Those look pretty promising, but they're hardly ever in stock anymore, so I don't know. Toxicant, those look pretty promising too, but I don't know. Maybe somebody could answer in the comments. I have all sorts of adjustability on them as well, which looks pretty cool. If you're gonna do any upgrades, hit up Reddit or hit up a Discord or something. And then BJ Tac, those also looked really cool too, but they're not really out there anymore. You can't really find them. But yeah, if you're gonna do any trigger box upgrades, Guns Modify spring sets are really good. Guns Modify replacement mechanical parts are also really good too. The box itself, you don't really have to worry about. The OEM box is just a shell. Yeah, it's not a big deal if you're just swapping out the components, but it is a pain in the ass to actually get in there. We'll do a video on that. Those are my recommendations for the trigger box. Hopefully that helps. I'm just kind of showcasing what I have in this particular gun and what I have in my other guns as well. I kind of stick with the same parts because I found them to be reliable. So yeah, that's about it for mechanical upgrades and performance upgrades. We'll go ahead and reassemble and get into the next segment. And now that I have it stabilized, that should help. Nice and easy. Slide it through those slots. Put that on safe. So the last major segment that I'll go into is loading, filling, and maintenance. First thing we'll get into is loading. My experience was I wanted to load my mags quickly and efficiently, and I got an Odin speed loader and an MWS mag adapter. The Odins have trouble loading the MWS mags because they are hard mags to load. The teeth on the Odin always get chewed up, but I said, screw this. I'm gonna get a speed loader and a 3D printed adapter, and that has been the solution. I don't use the Odin anymore. Just get a bunch of these little speed loaders and 3D print a bunch of these if you have a printer, or buy some, and yeah, you're good to go. These work really well. I'll go ahead and demonstrate that real quick. Kind of gotta hold the speed loader and the mag together, so I'll make sure it's completely loaded so I can't load anymore. And one thing to do is you always check if it's pretty hard to press. That means you filled it completely. It's not a good idea to put a completely full mag on a closed bolt. What you're gonna end up doing is this pickup arm on the bottom of the nozzle is gonna get bent. And then you're gonna have failure to feed and out of battery malfunctions. So what we wanna do is, because the pickup arm basically pushes the BB out, and we don't wanna bend that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna knock out 3 BBs, 2 to 3 BBs. And what I do is I take my speed loader and I'll press down, just make sure that I have enough, it doesn't feel like it's super aggressively tensioned. I'll just push it out with the wall of the speed loader. Just push out a couple BBs and you'll be good. Then you can put your mag in on a closed bolt. You're effectively getting 32 rounds, 31 rounds. That's good enough for me. I'm playing with a gas gun for a reason. Don't do 35 rounds, do 31 or 32. Next little segment, we're gonna go into gas. If you ever feel like you're not able to get through a full mag, it's probably a good idea to purge your mag, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. So we'll take our gas and somehow press down on the valve, finger or whatever we could get in there to press it down, and we'll shoot some gas out the bottom. few times, and that's gonna get out all the air. This is kind of like a commonly argued myth, but I think it's a good idea to do it every once in a while. And then we'll fill up. We don't wanna overfill, we don't wanna underfill. There's a method to overfill these mags, which does work well, but if they're too full, the hammer is gonna have trouble hitting the valve right here with enough force. But one thing I wanted to experiment with is weight. So we have our mag with no gas, no BBs. Let's see how much that weighs. 16.065, so we got that. And then we're gonna fill her up. It's a good idea to fill like this. Not in one go. You're gonna freeze the valve. So yeah, spurts, and then we'll check again, 16.515. And then here's the overfill method. So we fill straight down, and then if we wanna overfill, we tilt it to the side, and it allows more liquid gas in. Let's see how much we got now. So if we did the overfill, we're gonna have the mag at 16.605. So that's a little bit heavier. We don't wanna overfill these mags too much. That's a big thing too. We just want enough gas to get through the whole mag. 1.5 mags, 2 mags. These mags can get through 2 mags up to 3, as long as you fill them properly. Overfilling is just as bad as underfilling. So if you have a scale, it's a good idea to kind of experiment with that. I wanted to get your guys' gears going on that. Last point for gas is PSI. So 130 for hot weather, and I don't have 150, but 150 for cold weather. No silicone oil. We could do that on our maintenance cycles. Next segment we'll go into is maintenance. And I'm just gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna actually show you. Use silicone oil only during maintenance cycles, and we're gonna use them on our gas routers, fill valves, the nozzle, drip some in there, spray some in there every once in a while, not all the time. For mechanical maintenance, we're gonna clean, obviously, with some isopropyl alcohol, something not too abrasive because you can slightly wear off a little bit of finish if you're doing too much with it. For lubing, we'll use white lithium grease or specific GBB grease for the moving parts. And typically that is white lithium grease. It's just specialized for gas guns. You only need a little bit on only the moving parts and where there's a little bit of wear or where there's somewhere that is a contact area. That pretty much wraps it up on tips and tricks. Yeah, well, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully it's a good guide and at least kind of gets your gears going on it. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you have any recommendations. Yeah, let's start a dialogue on these guns because they're great. They run really great. They're a lot of fun and they look cool. Yeah, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe.